is the pygmy saxifrage.
All right, thank you very much, John, for this introduction. My name is Jaileen Merced, and my pronouns are she, her. And my title of my thesis is Where in Washington State is the pygmy saxifrage, the potential distribution of Saxifrage hyperborea. I want to start this presentation talking a little about how does the plant, a description of the plant. This plant grows in solitary or tough perennial. It grows as tall as 10 centimeters, so it's a very small plant. It have mostly basal leaves, and it have this round to kidney shape leaves with this very distinct lobes, and grows from June, flowers from June to August. It have terminal flowers, and these flowers have 5 petals, and these petals could be white to purplish, and it have a very small fruit capsule. This plant grows in alpine and subalpine areas. It grows in moist shaded cliff, rock crevasses, and talus, and it could grow at an elevation approximately 5,200 and 8,800 feet. This is a map from the Consortium of Pacific Northwest Herbarium. These are all herbarium specimens, so I'm going to zoom out a little. And we can find this plant in Russia, Greenland, Canada, and in the US, we can find it in Alaska, California, Idaho, Montana, Colorado, New Mexico, Wyoming, and Arizona. So where in Washington we can find this plant? There's 46 known locations for this plant, and we can see it here represented in red. This plant is native to Washington, and its rank is G means global rank, it's 5, which means secure, and it's a status, state status, it's sensitive, which is vulnerable or declining and could become threatened or in danger. So why studying this plant, right? Why should I study this plant? So over the summer, I worked with Wendy Gibble at the Washington Rare Plant Care and Conservation Program. I also spoke with Walter Furtick, who's the botanist at the Washington Natural Heritage Program. And both of them mentioned that there is a limited knowledge on the presence of this plant since it grows in areas that are difficult to reach. So Saxifrage hyperborea is sensitive species in Washington. However, it is secure and abundant in adjacent areas. Like in British Columbia and some states, it's not listed as a species of concern. In Idaho, it's listed as an SNR, which is a state conservation status not yet assessed. And in Wyoming, is listed just as here in Washington was a G5S3. So I wanted to build a species distribution model to see where we can find potential habitat for this plant. So my question was, how well can we predict the current distribution of Saxifrage hyperborea? In order to build this model, we needed baseline data, and we have 31 presence points, and we have 93 pseudo absence points. We have data sources. Our climate variables were from AdaptWest, and we have climate data that had 1 kilometer of resolution. I'm not exactly sure why it's not showing the. Okay, there we go. Sorry. There. Okay, so these are a map showing the climate variables that we use for this model. I'm gonna show here real quick. We had continentality, mean annual precipitation, growing degree days, number of frost-free days, precipitation as snow, climatic moisture deficit. So continentality is the difference between the mean temperature of the coldest month and the mean temperature of the warmest month. And climatic moisture deficit is the sum of the monthly difference between atmospheric evaporative demand and precipitation. And it's a useful measure of the moisture needed for vegetation to grow that must be met from other sources other than rain. So for our model, we decided to use random forest, and we particularly choose random forest algorithm because it works really well with small data sets. And since we only have 31 location points, it was perfect for our project. So random forest is a supervised learning algorithm, and that creates decision trees. And these decision trees split the data based on the explanatory variables, which is were our climatic variables. And these trees are merged together to ensure the most accurate prediction. The model is trained with part of the data and later validated with the remaining data. We built our model using ArcGIS Pro, specifically the tool of forest-based classification and regression. And for a model, we use 100 decision trees, and we excluded only 10% of our data for validation. And as this diagram shows, we put our presence and absence data, we put our climatic data, and then we train our model. And then when we felt comfortable with the accuracy, we made a prediction. If you're really interested in know how to random forest works, you can come back to my story map and watch this video. So before I jump into the model results, I want to talk a little about how we end up with the 6 climatic variables. We started actually with 12 climatic variables, and we did a correlation test, and variables that were really high correlated, we eliminated. So we end up with 9. And then we test and play around with our model and training part. And we find out that the combination of these 6 climate variables had the highest accuracy. All right, so once we were satisfied with our model accuracy, once we train it, then we predict. Random forest puts out output that it's called a confusion matrix, and this explains how sensitive and how accurate is your model. 1 being really good, 0 being really bad. So for sensitivity can be defined as the percentage of times features with an observed category were correctly predicted for that category. So for example, here in my training data, presence is 1, absence is 0. Presence has a sensitivity of 1, which means every feature that should have been marked as presence was correctly predicted. So then we got for absence 90.95 and 96 for accuracy. And accuracy, it takes into account both how well features with a particular category are predicted and how often other categories are miscategorized. And then for our validation data, we also got a 1 for sensitivity, a 0.90 for absence, and a 93 for accuracy, which I was very pleased with these results. Another output from random forest, it's called the top variable of importance. And this helps us understand which variable it's contributing the most to the model. In this case, precipitation of snow was the most important variable in predicting the distribution of Saxifrage hyperborean. And this adds, this percentage here adds up to 100. So I thought it was particularly interesting because snow cover, it's one of the most important microenvironmental requirements that affect alpine plant distribution. Snow cover can determine not only the spatial distribution, but also their growth after the snow melt and their reproductive behavior. And then here is our final prediction. In red, we can see the prediction for potential habitat for Saxifrage hyperborean. And most of the predictions are, because we see over here, are within high elevations of the North Cascades and the Olympics. And even though elevation was not included in the model, the variables that were included capture aspects important to elevation. The primary data that caught my eye was the prediction in the Okanagan and the Canadian Rockies, which is over here, particularly because we did not have any presence points in this area. So I'm gonna open here. We can see our presence points are orange, our absence, green, our presence, so we didn't have any. What's even, I think, more interesting is that it matches herbarium collections just across the border in Idaho. So I added some herbarium collections from the, and as we can see, these ones are yellow. These herbarium collections are from 1980, which these two over here, and then these two over here were collected in 2019, and this one over here was collected in 2020. So we can be certain that the plant is present in this panhandle area of Idaho. Another interesting point is how some of the predictions line up with the specific ecoregions. So I want to go out real quick and add my ecoregion layer. For example, what we see in dark green over here, it's the bottom of the Cedar Creek mountain range, and this mountain range goes around here and all around this area and goes all the way north 200 miles onto Canada. And in bright green is the high Canadian Rockies. And I think it's quite interesting since we did not include any ecoregions in the ecoregions, and the output showed a prediction that still highlight those boundaries. So I want to zoom in here, and if we can see there, the high Northern Rockies is kind of like lines up with that. And then in this area, we have some predictions in red here, and it lines up pretty close to with the high Northern Rockies. So I want to bring us back to going back to my research question: how well can we predict the distribution of Saxifrage hyperborea? Well, I think based on our model high sensitivity and accuracy results and the prediction in the Okanagan and the Canadian Rockies, where the model predicted in areas where we didn't have any presence, I think our model did a really good job. I think the next step will be doing a field validation. Making a model can really turn into a never-ending process. So from this project, I think I learned that future research could look at creating a model based on ecoregions. And this is because species do not follow political boundaries, and there will be a lot more presence data to work with. Another possibility for future studies will be to incorporate other climate variables like soil relief and solar radiation. So I want to say thank you very much to Walter Ferdick, who the botanist at the Washington Natural Heritage Program, for providing me with the presence data, Wendy Gibble of the Washington Rare Plant Care and Conservation for her guidance, to John Withy, my mentor, for his continuous support throughout this journey. So thank you very much. And any questions?